Hey guys, Sithu here. Since I'm going on tour very soon, I thought I'd make you a video about my live rig and how it works. If you didn't know I was going on tour, I'm going to be doing a European tour supporting my friends in intervals alongside the Omnific. I'm now going to awkwardly hold my finger out here to point to the tour poster that I'm going to put here in editing. Anyway, the reason why I'm sat here on the floor next to this compact little rack is because this rack is the entirety of my live rig for this tour, minus my live guitar player Liam's Axe FX2. Anyway, let's just go through what's in the rig. Sat on top is an Asus ZenBook, which is sort of the whole brain of the rig, running my preferred DAW Studio One 4. In the upper part of the rack is an Axe FX2, which some of you may know is my main guitar unit of choice for both in the studio and for live. Below that, which is the biggest change for this tour and for future tours, is a Shure PSM 300 wireless in-ear transmitter, or IEM transmitter. And finally, we have the heart of the live rig, a Focusrite 18920 2nd Gen, which is graciously provided to me by the awesome people over at Focusrite. I can't give enough kudos to my friends over at Focusrite, they've been far too good to me. The final rack space will be occupied by Liam's Axe FX2, like I said earlier. So let's go through it part by part. We'll start with the brain of the live setup, the laptop. I actually used to use an early 2015 MacBook Pro for my live setup, but obviously Sod's Law applied, and 2 weeks before the tour it ran into some serious issues. So that MacBook is only really good for one thing now. So now I'm using a Windows laptop, which is more my comfort zone, and accordingly I'm also using the same DAW that I use on my main desktop PC, Studio One 4. The session loaded up right now within Studio One contains audio that's being sent both to our IEM setup as well as to front of house. For IEMs, that includes backing track, bass tracks, and click tracks. For front of house, we're sending a stereo backing track as well as bass tracks. The reason I'm using bass tracks for this tour is that my regular bassist, Jack, unfortunately can't make it because he has both a job and a life. Anyway, the DAW session is receiving and sending audio via this red USB cable here. More on the exact routing later. This black USB cable here is sending MIDI information to my Axe FX2. What's being sent to the Axe FX2 is MIDI patch changes, so I don't have to fiddle around with pedals and a MIDI controller while on stage. Studio One also automatically sends tempo information to my Axe FX, which syncs delays and the like to the project tempo. Moving on to the Axe FX2, there's not really much to be said. It houses all the tones that I need in a convenient rack-mountable package and also sounds great. If you're wondering why I use an Axe FX2 instead of a traditional amp and cab, well, while as awesome as it would be to use an amp and cab, it would not be awesome to have to load in and out an amp and cab every single day on tour. But yeah, the Axe FX2 does everything I needed to do, with the bonus of having patch changes controlled by the DAW. Next, we have the Shure PSM 300. The IEM mix I mentioned earlier goes out of outputs 1 and 2 from the 18920 into the inputs of the Shure PSM 300. That is then picked up by these belt pack receivers, one for each member, so that we can all hear the IEM mix. If we wanted individual mixes for each member, we'd actually have to get a separate transmitter for each member, and these things are very expensive. The compromise is that all members get the same mix, but judging by how it went with rehearsals, I think we're all pretty happy with how it sounds. Finally, we have the heart of the live rig, the Scarlett 18920. I really mean it when I call it the heart of the rig. It routes all the audio where it needs to go, and works very closely with the brain, the laptop of the rig, in order to get everything working right. In terms of I/O, outputs from my and Liam's Axe FXs go into the inputs at the back of the interface, which get live monitored within the IEM mix. Like I said earlier, outputs 1 and 2 get sent to the Shure PSM 300 for our IEM mix, while outputs 3 and 4 send a stereo mix to front of house. There's not a lot running in and out of the 18920 at the moment, but it has so many inputs and outputs that it provides a lot of scalability to expand what goes in and out of my live rig in the future. Like with all the Focusrite gear I've worked in the past, I've just had to install the drivers, plug it in, and it works the way I want to without having to worry about it. Anyway, that about covers it. If you have any questions about my live rig or how it works, feel free to ask them in the comments. Also, if you're in Europe during the month of June, feel free to come out to one of the shows during the tour. Feel free to say hi as well. I love speaking to new people while on the road. More info on the tour is in the doobly-doo. Also, thanks to Focusrite for providing the 18920. More information about their interfaces will also be in the description. Thanks to all my patrons as usual for their support. Hopefully I'll see some of you on the road. Links to support me on Patreon and to join my Discord server are also down below. Thanks guys. I'll see you next time.